Good morning to all. So today's our topic, we already yesterday we started, that is wildlife conservation in India and the national parks in India. So today we move on to discuss about the wildlife sanctuaries. Wildlife sanctuaries in India. Dichigam Wildlife Sanctuary, Sundarbans, Manas, Bharatpur, Periyar, see this. So the Dichigam Wildlife Sanctuary and Sundarbans Wildlife Sanctuary, Manas Wildlife Sanctuary, Bharatpur Wildlife Sanctuary, Periyar, Vedantangal and Mundanturai, Annamalai, Dandeli, Chinnar. So these are completely on so North India. It was Kerala, Karnataka. So it there only, but not in our AP or Telangana states. So those are completely, those wildlife sanctuaries are mainly at the North Indian. So these are the wildlife sanctuaries. So the main aim of a sanctuary, that was the safest place for the organisms, so to overcome their extinction and their endangered condition. So to prevent that all the most of the organisms are now in threatened condition, those who have become so in endangered, so most of the species and some of the organisms are already extincted and remaining are going to be extincted. So that's why for their protection, the Indian government was placed a number of the national parks and also for the wildlife sanctuaries for the protection of wildlife organisms. So that's why, so these are comes under the wildlife sanctuaries in India. And the next, So the next topics after completion of wildlife sanctuaries and national parks, so in India. So then after the biodiversity hotspots in India and the endangered fauna of India. So the endangered fauna. Endangered means so the most of the organisms are extincted and some of the organisms to be going to be extincted. So those are endangered and vulnerable species. The vulnerable or so the high risk to the their endanger. So those are very high risk. So to those are ready to endangered. So those are ready to extincted. So such a species are considered here as a vulnerable species. So most of the species are there. So in the endangered fauna, so those are Indian bison, belongs to the cattle's family, black buck, snow leopard, Asiatic lion, cheetah. So these are the some of the species. So now in endangered condition, those are the Indian and so macaque. So it is also one of the endangered fauna. So Indian bison belongs to the cattle family and it was now in endangered condition. Only some of the species are left and black buck. So it is also going to be in endangered and threatened condition, and a snow leopard mainly in the Himalayan regions. So mainly in the Himachal Pradesh. So it was also in endangered condition. Only some of the 100 of the species are left. And the Asiatic lion is so now it was also in endangered condition, that is the Asiatic lion. So these are only some of the 500 to 600 species are only left. So the remaining are already extincted and these are only now in their population is very less, and a cheetah and the tiger population also now in endangered. Only the tiger population up to the 2000 tigers are presented in overall India, but their number was also gradually decreased now. And a macaque, so it was resemble like a monkey like structure, and a cheetah. So these are the organisms or some of the organisms now in endangered condition. So these are endangered fauna, that was mainly. So these all are going to be now in endangered condition. So those are ready to extincted. So those are mainly that phenomena was considered here as that was mainly considered here as that was endangered fauna. So another organisms are also there. Nilgiri, tar is another organism, and so the Bengal tiger, it is a Bengal tiger. So the Bengal tiger, it was also in a now in endangered condition, and some of the acts were also going to be proposed by the and already implemented by the Indian government. That was so the Pollution Prevention Act, Environmental Protection Act, and Crocodile Protection Act, and Elephant Protection Act. So different types of turtles are also those are the that was turtles are mainly presented inside the fresh water and also inside the sea water and marine water, and also inside the fresh water. So tortoises and the turtles. So those protection act was also implemented by the Indian government. Number of the acts are there, and so those are all the Environmental Protection, Air Pollution Protection Act and Environmental Protection Act. So these are mainly helpful for the protection of the environment. If the Forest Protection Act are also proposed or implemented by the Indian government, those all are helpful for the protection of the animal fauna. So if the environment becomes safer, then what happens is so then that was mainly helpful for the so the wildlife protection that was a forest mechanism. If the forest was protected, number of the forest area was increased, then what happens is the wild animals are also going to be increased, and that was make a great protection to the wild animals. So that's why snakes and crocodile and turtles, Elephant Protection Act. So these all the organisms which are going to be extincted and now in endangered fauna, those organisms are very so they were those are mainly carefully protected so by our Indian government. So these are mainly some of the endangered fauna, that was the Asiatic lion and a Bengal tiger, macaque, cheetah and a snow leopard, black buck, Indian bison, Nilgiri tar. So these are the some of the endangered fauna. Now these are in so going to be ready to extincted. Now biodiversity. India very rich for biodiversity. It may contain very rich biodiversity. So India possesses a very rich biodiversity, means bio, the living organisms. Bio means the living organisms, diversity means the variation. So the number of the different organisms are coexisted in an ecosystem. So that's type of so that's why that was considered here as a diversity, that is a biodiversity. So the biodiversity was mainly considered here as that was mainly different types of the organisms, that is higher the animals, different types of the animals and the plants, all are live together, all are coordinated with each other. So that's why that different types of organisms, so those organisms are live together. So the type of variation of different organisms, that phenomena was considered here as a biodiversity. And so the biodiversity India has so India rich to the very rich to the these are different types of the organisms. That was mainly the animals, not only the animals and the plant fauna, different types of the animal fauna. So these all are live together. That phenomena was considered as a biodiversity. India was very rich to the, so it may possess the different types of the animals, that is a number of the, so those are amphibians, some amount of the amphibians are there, and the reptiles are there, birds are there, mammal population is there. So these those all are coexisted, all are coexisted. So the reptiles, nowadays the reptile population and amphibian population, and so the number of the organisms, the amphibian was some of the high amount, so high number was presented than the reptiles, and the reptiles are higher than the birds, and the birds are, so the bird population was completely the mammals, so those are higher than the mammals. So in these manner, so some thousands amphibians or some thousands are there. The reptiles are also some reducing number up to some 15 to 20,000, and so the bird population, that was some those are also contain some thousands of population, and the mammals are so different. So the most of the organisms are, all the highest number was a mammal, that was mammals, and most of the mammals are also different. That was the monkey population, lion, tiger, so different are there, the elephants are there, and inside the water the whales are there, so and the human beings are there. So when we compared it with so always the higher in number, that is only one single population, that is a human population only, the man population. The human population is very higher than remaining these and other organisms, but the biodiversity was considered as all the organisms was coexisted in an ecosystem, that was together considered here as that was mainly considered here as the main population. So those higher population, that was mainly the high population was considered here as the higher population, that was a human being population only. So in these mainly, so the macaque and Indian rhinoceros is also one of the endangered fauna, and in these biodiversity, so it was very rich the biodiversity, and so in these the hotspots of biodiversity is also there. So those are hotspots. The hotspots, actually the biodiversity, India has very rich biodiversity, most of the different organisms are there, and India may possess a number of the that was organisms. And the next topic, that is hotspots in India. So those are hotspots, so those are mainly comes under some other regions, that was Himalayas, and so the Burma, Western Ghats. So these four are biodiversity hotspots in India. So these are the mainly regions which are considered as biodiversity hotspots in India. Means hotspots means so the very essential and so the that was important areas, mainly considered as some special areas. Hotspots are nothing but a specific and a perfect and a specific areas, means they may possess some of the speciality, means number of the organisms are there, some amount of the high population of organisms are there. So these are birds, mammals, reptile population is very high at that particular areas. That's why those areas, specific areas, specialized areas are considered here as hotspots and biodiversity hotspots in India. Biodiversity is a various organisms. So different types of the organisms are in same ecosystem. So those different organisms are mainly, especially, so those are permitted and their number was very high in a particular ecosystem, a particular areas. So those areas are considered as so those are biodiversity hotspots in India. So those are biodiversity hotspots. So actually these are biodiversity hotspots are mainly Himalayan regions. So those are Himalayan regions. So it may possess the that was a wild Asian and 163 different organisms are there. So those are the rhinoceros, Asiatic lion. So actually the Himalayan areas, so those are mainly the mountain region and a very cold temperature, and what is a perfect temperature is there. So that was very helpful for, so that was mainly helpful for the living of different types of the organisms. Those organisms are observed, so mainly permitted for, means the favorable conditions are helpful for the increased their population, and that was helpful for adjustment of the population. That's why the Himalayan region is one of the that may possess the 163 types of organisms, 163 types of so biodiversity, number of the organisms are there in the Himalayan regions, mainly especially the Himachal Pradesh that was nearby the Himalayan region. So it may concern the rhinoceros and the plant population and the mountain area. So the mountain area, it may possess 7,50,000 kilometers squares of mountain area. The mountain area, that was a 7,50,000 kilometers square of mountain area is there. So very high amount of mountain area is presented inside the Himalayan region. So it was helpful for the living of the different types of the organisms. So number of the 3,000 species of endemic species are there. So those endemic species are also lived in these 3,000 different types and 163 types of another organisms. So rich in population, rich in biodiversity. That's why the Himalayas is one of the hotspots of biodiversity in India. And next place, Western Ghats. The Western Ghats are considered peninsular of India. It may possess 1,90,000 kilometers square of mountain area. So 1,90,000 kilometers square area, that was a mountain area presented inside the peninsular India, that is the Western Ghats. So in these but available mountain area, that was only 43,000 now kilometers square now. So means remaining area was completely reduced some other reasons. Due to some other reasons, the area of mountain that was reduced. So by that the forest area was also and this area also possesses the deciduous forest, and the rainforest area. It also possesses the deciduous and rainforest area. So those are richly presented mainly inside the Western Ghats of India, and so the Burma, and Sundaland is another hotspot in India. So Sundaland, that is a Southeast Asian region, those are mainly concerned as Singapore. You know very well about that. The Singapore is the area, Southeast Asia, that was concerned as Sundaland. So here the number of the species are there, number of the organisms are there, and it also possesses the Thailand. Thailand was also comes under this, and Indonesia, Thailand and Indonesia. Thailand and Indonesia are comes under this. So different types of the organisms are there. The Southeast Asia, Singapore, Thailand and Indonesia are comes under the Sundaland area. It may possess the different types of the organism. So those are mainly plant species, or up to 25,000 types of plant species are available there, and 15,000 of animal species are available there. So these are the different types. So 25 different types of the plant species are easily available. So and 15,000 of animal species are also there. So in these 500 species are mammals, 200 species are birds, and 30,000 species of insects. Only 500 mammals, 300, so those are the birds, and 30,000 of insects are available there, and 18,000 species of flowering plants. So 18,000. 18,000 species of flowering plants. So 500 species of mammals, 2 to 300 species of birds are available at there. So very rich in biodiversity. So mainly these biodiversity hotspots, especially those are the specific areas and special areas, and that may possess a favorable condition of the environment is a favorable condition of environment is there. That's why number of the plant species and the number of the animal fauna, that is the mammals, birds, insects, and remaining those are the flowering plants. The plant population is there, the mountain areas are there, rainforest, deciduous forest areas is there. That's why mainly these are comes under. So those are the biodiversity hotspots in India: Himalayas, Burma, and Himachal Pradesh, that is Himachal Pradesh. So that may possess the so among all these, the Himalayas may contain a more amount of the mountain region. Now that was a 7,50,000 kilometer square area of mountain area is there. So that may possess a number of the forest area. So by that reason what happens is a different types of species are lived at there. So it was a very rich in biodiversity. So number of mammals and some other plant species, not only the the remaining the bird population, the remaining other organisms are lived at there, and not only that, so that was a Western Ghats, the peninsula of India. So those also contain the mountain area, so but not than the Himalayas. So that means some amount, that is 1,75,000, only 40,000 was available here, available now. The kilometers that was greatly reduced, means half of the mountain area was greatly reduced at the peninsular India, Western Ghats, and Sundaland. So Indaland it may be, that was mainly Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia. So these are three places are considered. So that was mainly about the Sundaland, and here so number of the insect population, some 15,000 of insect population is there, 18,000 of flowering plants are there, 500 species of mammals are there, 2 to 300 species of birds population is there. So very rich in biodiversity among the all the places. That's why those places are considered as a hotspots. So biodiversity hotspots in India. So that may place that may contain the a particular so speciality. Speciality is there for those areas. That's why that was considered as a hotspots. Biodiversity hotspots means special areas. So that was those places may favorable conditions on the mountain area. So that's why rich in biodiversity. So today's our topic, that is so totally that was the last chapter in second unit, that was a wildlife conservation in India by the protection of wild animals. So with the help of wildlife sanctuaries and wildlife the national parks are there in India, and wildlife protection acts are also implemented by our Indian government. Those protection acts are mainly, so those are nothing but all the organisms protection acts are there: environmental pollution protection act, air pollution protection, environmental protection, forest protection, crocodile protection, elephant protection, and the tiger protection. So in by these protection acts are helpful to conserve the different types of, to protect the different types of the wild animals, the wildlife population from the endangered condition. And so we also already discussed, that is endangered fauna of India. So already the endangered fauna of India was mainly comes under, so those are the Indian bison and the Asiatic lion and the Bengal tiger and macaque, and so different types of organisms are there. So and the rhinoceros, Indian rhinoceros now we also in endangered fauna. So these organisms are going to be extincted. So that's why those are protected very carefully by the by our Indian government. So those are the endangered fauna, and we also discussed today, that is biodiversity and biodiversity hotspots in India. So these topic, so totally second unit is over. Tomorrow onwards we are going to discuss about our third unit, the first topic, that is geographical regions. So today's topic is over. We'll meet tomorrow. Thank you.